This is Steve Bell with continuing ABC News election night coverage from our election center here in New York. There are any number of interesting stories being played out tonight in the races for Congress, both on the Senate and on the House side, but few are any more interesting than the story of the husband and wife, both of whom are running for re-election in the House of Representatives. Well, the male half of the husband and wife team has been returned to the House. Andrew Jacobs, who married Martha Keyes, now he's from Indiana, she's from Kansas. They were married during the present session. Jacobs has now been projected as a winner in the 11th district in Indiana. So he is back in Congress. The question is, will his wife be back in Congress? And there lies the other half of the story. She faces a much tougher race than Jacobs, and the main reason is because she came to Congress 2 years ago, married, was divorced just a short time later, and her divorce and remarriage to Jacobs has become an issue in her re-election campaign. Interestingly enough, most voters in Kansas seemingly questioning whether she remains loyal to them in Kansas now that she's married to a congressman from Indiana. Don Farmer is covering the House stories, and I think he has a late projection at this time. Don?
Steve, Indiana was one of the first states from which we could give some meaningful returns. And there is another race there of interest. The name Ray Madden may not be a household word, but he was one of the powerhouses in the House. Madden served 17 terms when he didn't retire. He was defeated at the age of 84 after he was chairman of the Rules Committee. He was defeated in the primary this year by Adam Benjamin. Benjamin is another man from the Gary, Indiana area. And Benjamin is the apparent winner tonight. His opponent was a Republican named Robert Billings, but Benjamin seems to be the winner. Madden will not be back, defeated in the primary. There are others who will not be back for other reasons. They include Wayne Hayes and Wilbur Mills, and I'm sure the reasons for their departure from the House are obvious. That brings up that question of scandal, and it keeps coming up, but that's because we have to keep talking about it. Scandal is in the land, or at least in the House of Representatives, and some people have been involved in scandals involving sex, and some have been involved in scandals involving money, and some both. One of the returns we're going to be watching with great interest tonight is in Utah, in the 2nd district there, where Alan Howe is running. He's expected to lose. He's the Democrat who was convicted in 2 courts for soliciting prostitutes, who, as you know, turned out later to actually be policewomen. Alan Howe looks to be a victim of that particular scandal, and there are others, Steve, and we'll be talking about them as the evening wears on.
Thank you, Don. ABC News coverage of election night will continue right after this.
Due to mature subject matter, parental discretion is advised.
You're under arrest for trespassing.
It was a summer vacation that started out awful and got worse.
It's prison farm. You're here to work it.
Why can't you listen to the rules, girl? Oh, no! All people in this town know what goes on here.
Robert Reed is the warden, Chuck Connors is the sheriff, and Deborah Rappin lives the nightmare at Batham County.
Friday at 9, 8 Central and Mountain on ABC.
It began in glory. It ended in infamy.
Arabs seize Israeli athletes.
William Holden.
I'm asking you to stop the killing.
I only want my brothers out of jail.
It's plain murder.
8 terrorists. 9 hostages. And the world held its breath.
Oh, my God.
21 hours at Munich.
Sunday at 9, 8 Central and Mountain on ABC.
At this point, we have 4% of the popular vote showing in the presidential contest nationwide, and these very meager returns show Jimmy Carter with 51%, almost 1.5 million votes, President Ford with about 1.4 million almost, or 48%. These, of course, very scattered returns from all across the country. In terms of electoral votes, you see Jimmy Carter with a rather sizable lead at the present time. He has so far captured 6 states, Alabama, Kentucky, Georgia, South Carolina, West Virginia, and Florida, to Indiana for President Ford. But again, we caution that although Mr. Carter has 61 electoral votes at this time, President Ford only 13, the early returns were expected to go this way because many of the southeastern states are among the first to report. Governor Carter, of course, from the South himself, and expected all along to do very well there. and therefore the early returns giving him a disproportionate share of the electoral votes. By comparison to what the pollsters tell us will be the final result, much closer than that this evening. One thing that could upset the pollsters' projections, nobody expected the voter turnout that we've had so far around the country. Voter turnout considerably larger than expected, good weather throughout almost all of the country, and according to the prognosticators, the more people who turn out, the better for the Democrats, because there are more registered Democrats. We'll see how that works out. And we'll be back with more ABC News election night coverage in a moment.
This is ABC,